A few stories in rugby manage to spark debate long before a ball is kicked, and sometimes the conversation becomes just as fascinating as the action on the field. The latest discussion involving the Springboks and rising English star Henry Pollock is one of those moments. It is a story that goes beyond tackles, tries, and trophies. Instead, it explores confidence, ambition, tradition, and the different ways supporters interpret the personalities of elite athletes. As rugby continues to grow into a truly global sport, players are becoming more than competitors. They are public figures, entertainers, role models, and ambassadors for the game. Every celebration, every interview, and every social media post can become part of a much larger conversation. That is exactly what has happened here. Henry Pollock has quickly emerged as one of rugby's brightest young talents. His performances have already convinced many supporters that England has discovered another exciting player capable of making a significant impact at international level. Alongside his ability on the field, however, comes a personality that refuses to hide. Unlike many young athletes who carefully avoid attention, Pollock appears comfortable expressing himself. He celebrates passionately, enjoys interacting with supporters, remains active on social media, and never seems afraid to show genuine confidence in his own abilities. For some rugby fans, especially those who appreciate players with bold personalities, this confidence is refreshing. Modern professional sport is no longer limited to 80 minutes on the field. Supporters want to know the athletes behind the jerseys. They follow interviews, behind-the-scenes videos, podcasts, documentaries, and social media content. Players who show emotion often become the biggest stars because fans feel they know them beyond their sporting achievements. Yet not everyone views confidence in the same way. Among sections of the rugby community, Pollock's celebrations and public image have attracted criticism. Some observers have described him as overly confident or even arrogant. Others believe young players should first establish themselves over several seasons before displaying such self-belief publicly. That reaction becomes especially interesting when viewed through the lens of South African rugby culture. For years, the Springboks have built a reputation as one of rugby's most respected and successful teams. Their achievements speak for themselves. Multiple Rugby World Cups, unforgettable victories against the world's strongest nations, legendary players, and an identity built around resilience have earned South Africa enormous respect throughout international rugby. With success often comes expectation, and with expectation comes confidence. That confidence has become one of the defining characteristics of many great Springbok players over several generations. One fascinating comparison involves Pieter-Steph du Toit, one of South Africa's greatest modern forwards. Years ago, he openly discussed his ambitions to become one of rugby's all-time great players. He explained that every achievement represented another step toward an even greater goal. Winning trophies, earning international recognition, collecting personal awards, and lifting the Rugby World Cup were not final destinations. They were simply milestones on a much longer journey. Those comments demonstrated remarkable belief in himself. Interestingly, they were widely admired. Supporters praised his ambition. They admired his work ethic. They respected his determination. Very few people suggested that his confidence crossed the line into arrogance. Instead, many viewed it as exactly the mindset required to become one of the world's best players. That raises an obvious question. Why does confidence receive such different reactions depending on who expresses it? If a respected Springbok speaks confidently about greatness, many supporters call it ambition. But if a young English player expresses similar confidence through celebrations and personality, some critics immediately describe it as arrogance. That contrast has become one of the central talking points surrounding Henry Pollock. Of course, personality has always played a role in rugby. Every generation has produced outspoken competitors alongside quieter leaders. Some captains motivate with speeches. Others lead through actions alone. Some players celebrate every turnover with visible emotion, while others quietly return to position without changing expression. Neither approach is automatically right or wrong. Professional athletes are individuals. Each personality brings something different to the game. South African rugby itself has never lacked confident figures. Throughout its history, many Springbok legends have carried themselves with enormous self-belief. Confidence is often a necessity at international level. When facing the world's strongest teams in front of packed stadiums, uncertainty rarely produces success. The modern Springboks under Rassie Erasmus have become perhaps the perfect example of controlled confidence. They respect every opponent while fully believing in their own system. Their squad understands exactly what they want to achieve. Every player knows the standards required to wear the famous green and gold jersey. That confidence has delivered extraordinary results. Winning consecutive Rugby World Cups placed the Springboks among rugby's greatest international teams. Their tactical evolution, squad depth, physical dominance, and remarkable ability to perform under pressure have earned admiration across the rugby world. Supporters naturally feel proud. Perhaps even extremely proud. There is absolutely nothing unusual about that. Every successful sporting nation celebrates its achievements. New Zealand supporters proudly remember the dominance of the All Blacks. Irish fans celebrate their remarkable rise over recent years. French supporters embrace their exciting generation of talented players. England remains proud of its own rugby history. South Africa deserves exactly the same opportunity. The interesting debate begins when confidence is judged differently depending on nationality rather than behavior. Some commentators have argued that traditional South African rugby values place greater emphasis on humility. According to this perspective, supporters appreciate players who remain quiet, disciplined, respectful, and focused entirely on performance rather than personality. There is certainly truth in that tradition. Many Springbok legends have built reputations through calm professionalism. Players like Siya Kolisi, Henry Pollock, and numerous others often allow their performances to become their loudest statements. However, that does not mean every successful South African rugby player has been naturally reserved. Far from it. Confidence exists throughout South African sporting culture in many different forms. Whether discussing school rugby, provincial competitions, club rivalries, or international fixtures, competitive pride runs deep. Players and supporters alike often speak passionately about their achievements, traditions, and identities. Anyone familiar with South African rugby understands how seriously the sport is taken throughout the country. Victories become shared national celebrations. Defeats inspire intense analysis. Selection debates dominate conversations. Supporters proudly compare generations of great players. Communities celebrate local rugby heroes. The passion is genuine. It is part of what makes South African rugby so unique. That passion naturally creates confidence. Success reinforces belief. Belief strengthens identity. Identity fuels ambition. Those elements have helped produce one of rugby's greatest international teams. The same confidence appears whenever supporters discuss the Springboks' remarkable achievements. Back-to-back Rugby World Cup victories represent an extraordinary accomplishment. Maintaining the world's #1 ranking requires consistency. Winning the Rugby Championship against elite opposition demonstrates quality across an entire season rather than during one tournament alone. These achievements deserve recognition. Supporters have every reason to celebrate. There is also another important point worth considering. Modern rugby has changed dramatically. Today's professional players operate within an entertainment landscape unlike anything previous generations experienced. Matches are broadcast worldwide. Highlights spread across social media within minutes. Fans follow training sessions, interviews, documentaries, and podcasts. Young supporters engage with personalities as much as performances. As a result, many players naturally express themselves more openly. Celebrations become memorable moments. Post-match interviews attract millions of viewers. Training clips generate huge online discussions. Athletes are encouraged to connect directly with supporters. That environment rewards authenticity. Some players choose quiet professionalism. Others display energy, humor, and confidence. Both approaches can succeed. Neither automatically determines character. This is why judging Henry Pollock solely through celebrations risks overlooking the bigger picture. His confidence reflects one personality among many within international rugby. As long as respect for opponents remains intact, expressive celebrations should not necessarily be mistaken for disrespect. Competitive athletes often experience overwhelming emotions during elite competition. International rugby represents years of sacrifice. Players dedicate countless hours to training, recovery, nutrition, analysis, and preparation. When success finally arrives, emotional celebrations become completely understandable. The Springboks themselves have produced unforgettable celebrations after major victories. Supporters cherish those moments. Images of players lifting trophies, embracing teammates, singing with supporters, and celebrating historic achievements have become iconic pieces of rugby history. Those celebrations reflect joy rather than arrogance. Likewise, younger players from other nations deserve room to express excitement after achieving important milestones. One person's confidence may appear as inspiration to another. One person's celebration may simply represent years of hard work finally rewarded. Ultimately, performance remains the greatest measure of any athlete. Confidence alone wins nothing. Social media posts score no tries. Interviews do not secure championships. Only performances on the field determine lasting reputations. That reality applies equally to Henry Pollock, the Springboks, the All Blacks, Ireland, France, England, and every other rugby nation. History consistently rewards players capable of matching confidence with excellence. The Springboks understand this better than anyone. Their greatest stars earned legendary status not because they spoke confidently, but because they repeatedly delivered when their country needed them most. Players like Pieter-Steph du Toit, Siya Kolisi, Eben Etzebeth, Cheslin Kolbe, and many others transformed ambition into achievement. Their confidence became credible because their performances supported every expectation. That same journey now lies ahead for younger stars across international rugby. Whether it is Henry Pollock, Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu, or the next generation preparing to make its mark, each player must eventually prove their ability over years rather than months. Talent creates opportunity. Confidence attracts attention. Consistency builds legacy. As rugby supporters, perhaps the most enjoyable approach is simply appreciating these contrasting personalities while respecting different styles of leadership and self-expression. The sport has always thrived because every team, every nation, and every player brings something unique. The Springboks remain one of world rugby's greatest champions because they combine immense confidence with relentless hard work, discipline, and an extraordinary winning culture. Young talents like Henry Pollock represent another exciting chapter in rugby's future, bringing energy, personality, and fearless ambition to the international stage. Whether supporters agree with every celebration or every interview, one thing remains certain: rugby is richer when its biggest stars inspire conversation, challenge expectations, and continue pushing themselves toward greatness, because ultimately, lasting respect is earned not through words alone, but through excellence, resilience, and unforgettable performances on the field.